Bigger than the trauma, bigger than the pain. We breaking chains, shifting lanes in the brain. From the ciphers to the couch, we bringing change. Narratives reframed, now the story ain't the same. Bars like therapy, beats like a guide. Voices amplified where the truth can't hide. From south side to wherever you reside, hip-hop heals, let it be alright. Healing through hip-hop.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your host, Shine. You're now locked in to Healing Thru Hip Hop, the podcast where we are exploring the therapeutic power in hip-hop culture. Welcome back. Thank you, everybody. Right now, what's heavy on my heart is to say thank you to everybody who tuned into the first episode. I am forever grateful for everybody who liked, commented, subscribed, shared, called me and let me know how much they liked and appreciated the content that I put out for the first episode. Actually, if you are here from episode 1, drop in the comments below, keep going. We need that type of reciprocal love with each other. That reciprocal love is very important in our community, and I feel like right now we are lacking reciprocated love in our community. So please comment below, keep going, and I promise you that I will. So, shout out to everybody who called me and let me know that they was really feeling the intro song. Quick story behind that. I feel like I'm a producer now because I really, even though I used AI to make the song, I had to put in the description box the type of beat I want, the vibe, and I wrote the lyrics to the song. And actually, my friend put me on to using AI for my intro song. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out, see how it works. If it don't work, then I'm just going to have no intro song. And that's going to be that. So I went on the website and I had 3 free credits. And if y'all know me, I'm not spending anything on anything. So these 3 credits these three credits got to work. Next thing you know, the first 2 songs I think I got out of it was really not hitting it. Actually, they gave me 2. So 1 credit gives you 2 songs, and the first 4 songs mediocre. Like, it was some of them I was like, okay, if anything I have to choose this, but I'm like, this last credit gotta be the one. Then I went and used my last credit, and it came up with this. We're breaking chains, shifting lanes in the brain. From the ciphers to the couch, we bringing change. Narratives reframe, now the story ain't the same. Bars like therapy, beats like a guide. Voices amplified where the truth can't hide. From south side to wherever you reside. Hip hop heals, let it be alright. Like, I really made a hit. Nah, but thank you to everybody who liked the song. I like it too. I feel like it goes exactly with kind of the lightheartedness of what I want this podcast to be. So, like always, we're going to start with the agenda for the episode. And in today's episode, we are going to be doing exactly what the title says, breaking the silence and talking about the mental health stigma in hip hop. Secondly, we're going to be doing a deep dive into DMX and his life. And last, we're going to be talking about a cultural blueprint for healing. So, disclaimer, this episode is going to include references of mental health, child abuse, domestic violence, substance use, and ultimately death. And I want to start by recognizing how extremely difficult talking about mental health can be, especially for victims or, better yet, survivors of abuse. Even talking about the things that happened to you and revisiting some of those wounds can re-traumatize you and take you back into moments of deep vulnerability. Moments in the past that we do not want to relive, and we have tried very hard to put it behind us. So I want to be clear, the stigma exists in mental health in Black communities and hip hop, not because we are people of low emotional intelligence or cold-hearted individuals. It exists mainly as a protective measure. And what I mean by that is, actually, if you could finish this next line, drop it in the comments below. What happens in this house? Now, most of you will probably say what happens in his house stays in his house. That's something we've learned as a community in order to protect us from maybe as children going to school and saying things that's going on in your house that may cause child welfare to intervene into your home, right? And it's the fear of families being separated, children being taken from their home. You teach your children what happens in this house that stays in this house. And usually it's in order to protect them. But on the other side of that same idea of what happens in this house stays in this house, we have children who get sexually abused that don't tell anyone. We have children who are suffering from extreme physical abuse in their home that do not tell anyone, and because what happens in his house stays in his house. We have adults who are going through domestic violence who have been taught since they were children what happens in this house stays in this house that do not say anything. So this idea of what happens in this house stays in this house, it may have started out as a protective measure where we can see how it can lead into destruction or something that can cause harm. So like I said, the intention of the silence is survival. We learned that showing vulnerability can cost you your life because strength was a necessity to endure the endless cycles of systemic and generational trauma. Another reason why we don't talk about mental health is because we believe we don't have time to. When bills need to be paid and mouths need to be fed, we tend to put our own emotional and physical well-being on the back burner. But this podcast is and will always be about healing. And the first step of healing is recognizing the wound. It's real easy to live our lives believing that we don't have anything to heal from and that bad things happen because life is hard and that God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. And the truth is, healing takes work and wound acknowledgement. So let's acknowledge this wound. And usually I would try my best not to read down what I actually wrote for this podcast. But for this, my ancestors are telling me that you need to read every single word here. You do not need to paraphrase because this wound acknowledgement is critical in the healing process. In order for us to understand what it is we are going through, we have to first understand what it is we went through. And that takes a lot of courage to do and a lot of unlearning and a lot of confronting the things in the past that we may be ashamed of and we may not be happy with. So let's do that and acknowledge this wound. From 1526 to 1867, about 12.5 million people were stolen and captured from their lands. The history of mental health in Black communities is deeply tied to systemic oppression, generational trauma, and survival. From the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, arguably the largest act of human trafficking, sex trafficking, and straight up genocide in human history, to Jim Crow, tenant farming, convict leasing, mass incarceration, we've endured endless cycles of trauma. And even after the prohibition of slavery in 1865, healing was impossible. Systems like sharecropping or slavery by another name, later the crack epidemic, the war on drugs, and mass incarceration ensured that we couldn't. So with so much to unpack, not even including personal or familial challenges that individuals face beyond the color lines, it is 100% reasonable why we do not speak about mental health, because we learned that bad things happen and you gotta stay strong in order to survive. We've been taught to pray about it, to tough it out, to bury our pain. But the truth is, healing takes work. And I'm always say, we deserve that space to heal. So with that being said, let's transition into our first artist of Healing Thru Hip Hop. This is when I start getting hyped because I love to really dive into these artists' lives, and the multifacetedness of them is sometimes can only be like really heard in their music. This artist is known for his raw, aggressive delivery, unmatched talent, the first artist to release 2 #1 albums in the same calendar year, the only artist or one of the only artists to contend against Jay-Z, a rough rider through and through, a father, a husband, and most importantly to him, a man of God, a survivor above all, no other than the legendary and honorable DMX. Shout out to Darkman X, for real. You know, DMX is special because from the moment he hit the game, other rappers knew that they was in trouble. Right around the time DMX was coming up, we had just lost Biggie and Tupac. Even though we still had heavy hitters like Jay-Z, Nas, West Coast artists. Well, truly, after Tupac died, the West Coast kind of was on a quiet tip for a little bit, but that's another story for another day. Yeah, South has something to say. Anybody who a real fan of 90s hip hop know what the late 90s, early 2000s, we started to seeing more artists like Juvenile and the Hot Boys. Bling Bling was coming up. Like, it was changing. It was the South really had something to say when Andre 3000 said that at the Source Awards in 95. He was like it was prolific. It was like he had foreseen something because to this day in 2025, 30 years later, the South is still running hip hop. And again, don't argue with me, argue with your mother, like seriously. But anyway, like I said, we still had heavy hitters, but nobody tried to fill the shoes that Biggie and Tupac had left in the game. And then along comes this loud, sometimes obnoxious, Tim wearing, unapologetically hood dude who would sometimes start barking out of nowhere. He was different, he was vibrant, he was dynamic and exactly what the game needed at the time. So DMX becomes sort of like a poster child of gangster rap is not dead. We are still like it's still being represented in hip hop. And on the other end of that, DMX early life was marked by significant trauma and unimaginable pain. Here he is actually talking about it.
I remember a lot about my childhood. I used to get beat a lot of beatings.
Who was doing the beating?
My mother. If I did something wrong, her favorite thing was the extension cord. Well, she braided 3 of them together and would wait till I go to sleep. And she'd climb on my back, and just like beat me so much. She used to beat me till she was tired. I think that's why it's hard for me to sleep sometimes. I remember one time she beat me with the broom and knocked out like 2 teeth. I'd go to school, I couldn't sit down, but we had a rule. I mean, it was like whatever went on in the house, you keep it in the house. She would always threaten us with, the white people are gonna come take you away. You want that? You want that? Then this around and gives me away anyway, you know what I'm saying? At 7, and I got put in institutions,
You were 7?
Yeah, the process is you go for an interview, that's what they call it, like, oh, there's a place, we think would be good for them, and they use these words that are real vague in description, and I go into cottage with the kids, and she leaves, and when she came back, I'm expecting, a few hours later she comes back, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here, I don't know anybody here, I'm like, and she's like, all right, see you in 3 months. I didn't bring a toothbrush, nothing. I had no clothes, anything. And it's like from way across the room. Like, all right, see you in 3 months. I think that's when the problem was born. Pretty much said, you know what, everything and everybody, but it hurt. It hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, you're just gonna leave me? Like, my mother don't care about.
It's incomprehensible.
It's like, all of y'all, and what? That's what it was. That's what it was. That's what it was. My mother, she told me, you're a piece of shit. You're just like your father. You ain't ever gonna be. My mother told me I was gonna go to jail. No, my mother told me I was gonna go to jail and get on my ass by the time I was 14, because I was such a problem.
So DMX was born Earl Simmons on December 18th, 1970 in Mount Vernon, New York. His early years was marked by significant trauma, including physical abuse, witnessing domestic violence, abandonment, and neglect. At the age of 7, he was sent into residential care by his mother. Residential care is a place where children live in a group setting with very strict treatment plans in place. You're supposed to be getting an education there. You're supposed to be getting clinical services there. You're supposed to be getting recreation. You're supposed to still have kind of quote unquote well-rounded developmental opportunity, but you're living in a residential treatment facility. You're supposed to be there for treatment. You may have been diagnosed with some type of mental illness and are going to this residential care to treat that mental illness. Or you may be adjudicated by juvenile justice to go to residential care for X amount of time as like punishment. Or you can find yourself in residential placement if you're in foster care and you kind of deemed too difficult to be in a foster home setting. So DMX found himself in that situation at the age of 7 years old. I'm gonna tell you right now, from working in residential settings and with all due respect to the work that's being done in those places, there's no place that no child is supposed to be. So he would continue to find himself in and out of residential care and group homes until he was about 15. Things still didn't work out at home, so he found himself homeless at the age of 15. And while he was homeless, he would sleep on park benches and find himself sleeping in parking lots, doing things to survive. And in the mix of that, he started to fall in love with or take a great admiration for stray dogs. And with that relationship with those stray dogs, he was able to give them the love that they did not receive, as they were obviously stray animals living on the streets. And DMX got their protection in return. So he started taking in those stray dogs and keeping them as pets. Also, in order to survive, he began to rob people, carjack. He was a stick-up kid. He was a 15-year-old homeless boy, so nobody will hire him. And he did what he had to do in order to survive. And while we will never condone violence, we have to understand that poverty is the number one leading cause of crime. Not race, not gender, not anything but your economic situation. So if you are hungry and you have no money, most likely you will steal food. And that's very simple. I know a lot of people try to argue that fact, and I don't even want to get into it right now because I'm gonna get mad. But let's continue with DMX. His journey into music begins at the age of 15 while he was a homeless kid in the streets. He actually becomes a beatboxer. For those of you who may not know, back in the 80s, 90s, beatboxers were a very important part of the crew. Almost every rap crew had a beatboxer. We know famous beatboxers like Dougie Fresh and Biz Markie. Rest in peace, Biz Markie. But there was some real heavy hitter beatboxers back in the day, and DMX decided that was going to be his way into the rap game, and he started beatboxing. He actually gets his name up. Let's put a picture up right here. He gets his name from a popular pop drum machine called the DMX, and that's how serious he was about his game back in the day. So he starts to beatbox for a local rapper in Yonkers named Ready Ron. And he shared with the world, actually a few months before he passed away, that while he was beatboxing for Ready Ron, when he was about 14 years old, he introduced him to crack cocaine by lacing it into his weed. For those of you who may not know, that's actually called a wooly. And a lot of people back in the crack epidemic would smoke woolies. A lot of people was introduced into crack cocaine that way, and later on just graduated to smoking full-blown crack. But smoking woolies always had less of a stigma to smoking crack, just with like a crack pipe. I don't know why, because I still personally think that it's the same, but we're not here for my opinions. When I was doing my research for this episode, I actually started to think about the Cream verse, which is probably one of the most legendary, most known rap verses in history, Cash Rules Everything Around Me by Wu-Tang. I was thinking about Raekwon verse when he was like, it was just a dream to a teen who was a fiend, started smoking woos at 16 and running up in gates and doing hits for high stakes, making my way on fire escapes. No question I was speed for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed. So there it is, another artist for the same era, talking about woolies and how they got started smoking wools at he said he started smoking wools at 16. So this was happening, and unfortunately for DMX, he continued to struggle with his cocaine use for the rest of his life, and at the age of 50, he passed away from a cocaine-induced heart attack. And here he is actually talking about that situation with Ready Ron.
Well, see, I kind of grew up with hip hop, where I mean, like as hip hop, because people think hip hop is not just music. Hip hop is a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? It's a way of talking. It's a way of standing. The b-boy stance. You know what I'm saying? Graffiti. You know, DJ, breakdance. You know what I'm saying? It's like you had to do something that was a part of hip hop, which is the lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And as I started beatboxing, I used to do the beatbox, and a huge part of the music aspect of it.
But Ready Ron.
What? Oh, wow, whoa, okay, shit just got real. All right. So, I'm in Yonkers, you know what I mean, and I just come home from being in these institutions from the age of 7 to 14, you know what I mean, and this guy, Ready Ron, you know what I mean, he was like an older brother to me, and he would rap, and I would do the beatbox. I looked up to him like an older brother, you know what I'm saying? I love this guy like an older brother, cause, I don't have any brothers. And man, I would beatbox, he would rap. This guy, he introduced me to what would be the best part of my life, which would be the rap. But he also, at the end of my life, is blessed with the curse. And the curse aspect of it was, like I said, I didn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything. I'm 14 years old, and me and my man should do a robbery one night, and it was his birthday, and we came back. We split the money. I said, "Here, take this. Go get something nice for your birthday, whatever." So he came back with a blunt rolled up, and as I'm counting the money, he lights the blunt. And I said, "I was impressed. I don't really smoke, nigga. Fuck out of here." And he passed the blunt around. And, wow. And I hit the blood, and I'm like, I was no longer focused on the money. I never felt like this, like, it just fucked me up. I'm like, the fuck? And, I later found out that he laced the blunt with crack. My thing. Why would you do that to a child?
Right.
And this nigga, like 30, you know what I'm saying? And he knew how I looked up to him.
Yeah.
He knew how I looked up to him, you know what I'm saying? And like, why would you do that to somebody who looks up to you like this? You know what I mean?
Take your time, brother.
The monster was born.
So although DMX ultimately lost his battle to substance use, his talents took him all over the world. He became known as one of the most respected rappers, an actor, created the best rendition of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer known to man. He was a source of motivation not only for the people of Yonkers, but for countless of young men who were slipping and falling and couldn't get up. Anthems like Where the Hood At, X Gon' Give It To Ya, Rough Riders anthems not only becomes big platinum records, but like cultural chants. And so much so that if you play them today in 2025, they will still get the spot bumping. So we got to give DMX his flowers for all the countless records and hits that he made, for all the party songs that he made and contributed to hip hop. Seriously, one of his one of the songs in his massive library that really highlights mental health and his battles with mental health was Slippin'. And Slippin' becomes a national anthem for everybody who's going through something at the time, because there wasn't a record like that before that really acknowledged that, yo, I'm slipping, like I don't got it, like I'm not good, you know. Even though in the song he says I got to get up, you know, I think that was more so of our mindset of staying strong and still getting up. Even Cardi B says it in her song Get Up, what, you fall 9 times, get up 10, right? So we have that mentality of, even though we can even sometimes even acknowledge our pain, right, we still, those underlines of like, no, you got to get up. I think that's a problem within itself as well too, that we don't allow a lot of space for just depression and sadness and things that are actually a part of the human experience that we're likely going to go through in our lives. If we live long, healthy lives, depression is going to come. We're going to lose people. We're going to have bad things happen to us. It's okay to not be okay. Seriously. I know that's probably like a mantra or something like a lot of people say nowadays, oh, it's okay not to be okay. But seriously, it really is okay not to be okay. I really wish more of us really sat with that sometimes. I can't play the song, but in Slippin', he says, going too fast, it wouldn't last, but yo, I couldn't tell. Group homes and institution prepared my ass for jail. They put me in a situation forcing me to be a man when I was just learning to stand without a helping hand. Damn, was it my fault? Something that I did to make a father leave his first kid at 7 doing my first bid? Back on the scene at 14 with a scheme to get more cream than I ever seen in a dream. But by all means, I'll be living high off the hog, and I never gave a fuck about much but my dog. So that's a part of Slippin' that he was able to say exactly what I said in the last probably 10, 15 minutes in 5 or 6 verses in a song. Everything he talked about going to group homes and institutions, prepared him for jail, about at the age of 7 doing his first bid, 14 coming home, you know, just wanting to get some money, so he started robbing people. Then he don't have no love for nobody but dogs, because no human being has showed him enough love or showed him enough care in his life besides those stray dogs that he fell in love with. And that's what hip hop can do. Hip hop can help us tell our stories in ways that we might not be able to say it. DMX may not, you know, have been able to express those words at that time in his life and be able to tell his story. Look, he didn't come out, and I want to just put out a disclaimer as well that Reddy Ron refutes that allegation of him giving him any type of crack cocaine or lacing his blunt with any type of crack. He denies that happened. So DMX was almost 50 years old at that time, where he was able to finally tell the world where his substance use started from. Now, would he have been able to do that when he was 15, when he was 20, when he was 25? Maybe not. So time can also change things. So DMX story reminds us of the importance of breaking the silence. His vulnerability, honesty, and rawness made him a legend, not just in hip hop, but in life. This episode is about honoring his story, honoring his music, honoring his legacy, and reflecting on the stigma of mental health as it relates to the hip hop community and the larger Black community as well. And ultimately always finding healing in the culture. Despite all the bad things that were happening to him and all of the negative things, and he still made it to the history books. So that's to tell you right then the power of hip hop and the power of voice and the power of using our words. And that could kind of shift us into the cultural blueprint of healing, right? How hip hop meets us where we are, and how we can use hip hop as a way to process pain, joy, struggle, and success. You know, whether it's blasting music in a car, writing down lyrics that hit deep, or just vibing to a song that make us feel good. We talk about in hip hop therapy a lot the power of storytelling and how artists use their lived experiences and turn them into lyrics, which gives people songs that everybody can relate to. So one person's story, while it's an individual story, could go off and affect thousands, if not millions of people. Or We think about songs that a particular artist said exactly what you needed to hear at the time you was feeling, before you probably even had the words to express it yourself. You listen to a song and they said exactly how you was feeling at the time. Now that's therapy, right? And you don't only have to only be a rapper. Besides, writing songs, you could journal, you could write down your emotions, freestyling, talk a lot about dance as release and physical movement. And you ever seen some of the dancers really be in it? Like they're going through like poetry and motion. They're expressing and releasing that stress out of their body by dancing. Dancing is such a big, important part of hip hop culture from the beginning to now, from breakdancing to today with the TikTok dance movement. DJing can be used as a tool for mindfulness. Any DJ out there could tell you right now that you have to be completely locked in to what you're doing. If you're being a good DJ, you have to be in sort of like zen with the music in order for you to be a successful DJ. So we use DJing as a mindfulness tool. And then we also practice listening with intention, creating a playlist based on your mood, your motivation. Gym, like we do it a lot probably when we go to the gym. We got our gym workout songs. Drop a comment right now below what is the song you're listening to right now in the gym. Why this matters for Black mental health is because we need, if we're not gonna get to the point where we're ready to talk about mental health in traditional spaces without using music or hip hop as a tool, we're not ready for that and we're not there yet. We could always start with things that we have and things that we already use every single day. We need spaces where our emotions are validated. Hip hop does that without judgment. The culture gives us permission to be vulnerable in ways that society doesn't always allow. I want to end this by saying that mental health is real and that hip hop gives us a space to release and navigate those emotions long before therapy was even an option for any of us. So thank y'all for tuning in to the second episode of Healing Thru Hip Hop, the podcast where we explore the therapeutic power in hip hop culture. Appreciate y'all for coming out. See y'all next time.
This is Healing Thru Hip Hop, where the beats and the rhymes collide with your soul. Exploring the therapy in the culture, one track at a time. Let's heal.